Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the Syrian Civil War situation report, or the summary for the day of, actually that's the wrong date, let me change the date, 6 to 8 of December. And this includes all the latest information up to this point, which is in Singapore at least is the morning of the 9th of December. And you probably will have heard by now that Assad have escaped or evacuated to Russia. He's in Moscow right now. He has been awarded and given political asylum by the Russian government, and the Syria as we know it is no more. It's gone. So the Syria is now in the state of, I would say, transfer of power. You can also call it anarchy. But the war is not over. So I just want to, so we're going to go through all the latest situation right now in Syria, and this is still developing. Removal of Assad is just the beginning. So it's only the beginning. So first thing first, let's talk about the HTS forces and know what leads to all these collapsed over the Assad forces. Change the map, but later realize I forgot to do something. So the Damascus was actually pretty far. The last update we were talking about Hama, the collapse of Hama, falling of Hama, and then the forces of HTS heading towards Homs. However, in the space of 3 days, suddenly things has collapsed tremendously to the point where Damascus itself, the capital of Syria, has fallen. This comes after the southern part. Some call them the Dara rebels. Has basically raised up. They have been protesting for the past 2 weeks, and they have suddenly formed up, and then they suddenly went on an offensive. They somehow managed to get weapons and whatnot. Maybe they are armed by the Americans, which is more likely the case because they are bordering Jordan, and they have launched a major offensive from Dara region and are pushing out in all directions. And this is just the capture. This is basically more or less the capture for the first day. Maybe I should use a different color. Maybe you can see it better. Let's change it again. Let's do it again. Like they basically fan out in this way, and this is actually in just 1 days of offensive, and you can see that that's how weak the Syrian army has become, and by the second day they are already on the outskirts of Damascus. So this was what was happening from the south, and this is one of the major triggers to the collapse of the entire of the Syrian government forces. And when this happened, the American trained rebel forces, or the Free Syrian Army, basically launched an attack from the Al-Taf region where the Americans control. Basically, they also went out and basically taken positions into the desert, and then they stormed down the road and head towards the east of Damascus, which is over here. And this means that there is a pincer. There's a pincer basically on Damascus, and this pincer basically collapsed the entire Syrian government resistance. It looks like there is very, very little resistance in the in the Syrian army. Like very few actually decided to fight. There is actually some fighting being reported, mainly around the central region, and there was another one over in the south. So let me redraw. And another one further in the south, there is some fighting being reported. So I think the Damascus one, probably they are fighting against HTS forces. In the south, they're fighting the Syrian, the southern rebels. So, but the southern rebels is in connection. They connect with the HTS. I didn't call them the HTS because they aren't really exactly HTS. They're just rebels. They are in the south. They are armed and trained by maybe Jordan or United States through Jordan. Also, it's a totally different kind of thing. And but collectively, they are all known as opposition forces, according to other sources. So, and the main capture of Damascus, no, basically it collapsed pretty quickly, and then HTS forces basically just drove in with very very little fighting, and the so in while that was all happening, the in terms of the HTS forces, they basically fanned out from Hama. They attacked southward. So they attack. I think I should just use yellow. Yeah, they attack southward towards Homs. They capture multiple positions, and then they hit all the way to the coast, and then they hit out. But mainly they are targeting Homs. This was still the main battle. A lot of battles are happening at Homs region, and then and in the north, they also sent a new force heading out. Well, I should use the yellow color. Heading out and all the way to Latakia, as well as all the way to the border crossing over at, I think this is Turkey. Yeah. So and that was exactly what happened. There is very little forces, I think, involved here. They basically drove and claimed control. Pretty much that. The entire Syrian government forces just melt away. Nobody know where they went. And because of the sudden siege on Damascus, the HTS forces basically just drove down from Homs, and there is basically no resistance. So it was a very easy drive. They just went all the way. They captured air base. This air base is we need to zoom in. The air base at Sherat, and basically they captured the air base, which was actually used by the Russians. Then they went all the way south, released more prisoners from prisons, and moved further south, and then actually eventually reached Damascus. And the leader of the HTS basically arrived at Damascus, and they also captured all the TV stations, radio stations, and declared that they have taken over the Syrian government. Then the Syrian government, as well as even intel agencies, all surrendered and worked with the rebel forces and starting to do handover. So the resistance is very minimal. The only two fightings reported is just basically these two locations where fighting happened, but pretty much I think didn't last very long because there's basically not much reinforcement, and it wouldn't have lasted. So if you look at certain mapping, they would just color the entire Syria, as rebel control. But I didn't do that because it's just not so simple. So that is that. So now so that basically sums up a lot of these offensive operations against the government forces. What happened to the Syrian government is that there is a mass evacuation at the Kememin air base. Basically, this is the air base that is used by the Russian forces. This is the main air base, and a lot of those transport aircraft from the Russian Federation was there. At least 4 different aircraft, and they evacuated probably a lot of close aid, maybe ministers, and I'm not sure, and including the president of Syria. So they all got evacuated. There is some rumors about Russian troops getting stuck within Syria. The locations is unknown, and of course there's zero news about the Wagner private military contractors, if there's any. So, and with the HTS forces closing down, the Hezbollah forces basically gave up. They are unable to fight, and they actually retreated from the town that they actually managed to take control. The Al-Qasaya, they have retreated back into Lebanon. So it's few hundred fighters. There was previously rumors about another 2,000 was going to enter into Syria, but I think if that is true, they also decided to just give up their operation immediately. And with this collapse of Syrian government, Lebanon troops was deployed. This is the government troops. This is not the Hezbollah troops. The government troops basically got deployed to the border crossings to secure their border against possible incursions by the HTS forces. into Lebanon. So but the incursion did not happen. Airstrike happened instead. Israeli airstrike happened at close to the border crossing against potentially HTS forces. So and so talking about Israel, Israel basically invaded into Syria using the chaos as the pretext. They claimed to enter into Syria to protect protect the UN forces and basically taken position at Mount Hermon, where actually where the at this high ground, at this mountain, that's where the UN forces supposedly have positions. The Israeli forces basically entered there, and they have also entered into this area here, just southwest of Nabeh, and basically taken positions over there. Uh, More forces is being sent to this area here. I can't remember the name. What is this place called? Majda Shams. So more Israeli forces have gathered around here. So this includes, this already we have forces, maybe these are special forces already going to this area, the commandos. So, and maybe more ground forces is now waiting to capture more grounds. I believe they're gonna annex more areas of Syria to continue to improve their buffer around Golan Heights, and they launched massive air campaign across southern Syria, including in Damascus. There is some airstrikes in Damascus, and then a lot of positions over in the south, targeting many military installation, ammo depots and whatnot, to prevent all this from falling into militants or the rebels forces that may not be friendly to the Israelis, and of course definitely not to HTS. So they are doing all these operations, and I believe that they will continue to take more grounds. I believe that they might go for a pretty big chunk. HTS government, the new leadership of New Syria have said that the Syrian territorial integrity is very very important, and they do not accept the Israelis invasion into Syrian territory. How are they going to enforce it is beyond my imagination, because Turkey is not going to give up the grounds, the Syria that they have captured. The Americans will continue to support the Kurds, and of course secure all the oil fields that they have taken. So that's why I say the war is not over yet. HTS will continue to operate under the same problems Assad's government has faced. So basically, they simply replace Assad's government to deal with the same problems, where they are just going to fight with a lot of proxy, which they themselves is also one of the proxy, but now they gain control. And yeah, let's see how this goes. That's why there's all these different factions is very weird. We have HTS, we have the Southern Rebels, we have the Free Syrian Army, and then of course we have the SNA. So what happened to the SNA? They basically launched, as per the last sit rep that I've done, they were preparing for an offensive against Manbij, which is over here, Manbij. They basically launched the offensive. The latest information suggests that they have entered into Manbij, and they have clashed with the SDF forces. So airstrike was reported in these two locations. There is airstrikes, and clashes continue over in the northern flank, where the SDF forces held their lines. However, the western line failed to hold, and they fall back, and they are fighting over at Manbij. They are trying to hold the positions over there, but I got a feeling that they are not going to hold the position pretty long, as I think the SNA seems to have a superior firepower at this moment because of the support from Turkey. So let's see how this continue to play out. I mean, the SDF have the Americans, but to expect the Americans to fight with the Turkish, I think it's a little bit difficult. So while this is happening, we also have what's this? Okay. We also have fighting reported in the southern flank, in the region of Maskana, and basically the Turkish-backed SNA forces basically attack southward, and they clash with the SDF forces. However, based on the latest mapping from live UA map, it seems to suggest that the SDF was successful, and the line remains to hold more or less around this region here. So the attack, they were attacking and fighting in these two regions, but maybe the attacking force is a bit too small. They are unable to break through, and then they got pushed out. So the SDF is still holding positions around here, and the and it is important to note that the US has warned both opposition groups, the SNA and the HTS, from invading into eastern Syria, basically the west, including the western bank of the Euphrates River, which means that the the Americans want let's join wants the entire area, including the buffer around the western bank of the Euphrates River. This is probably unacceptable. As I mentioned, HTS claimed sovereignty across all of Syria, and they insisted on territorial integrity. But like I said, they have to deal with the Americans, the Kurds. I don't think they are able to deal with this. And with the collapse of the Assad government, the previous lost battle has flipped into a victory. SDF forces basically took advantage of the retreating Assad forces and taken Deir Azor, as well as all the villages that they were seeking, and even more. They actually stormed out of Deir Azor and even crossed from the other side over in El Mayaldin, and taken positions around here and create a massive buffer along this highway, controlling all these areas here. So these are bad arrows, wrong arrows. So basically, this is what happened. They taken all these positions in the Deir Azor front and basically conquer all these areas here. There is also some weird fighting south of this position. The ISIS forces actually try to attack into this area here. And then there was HTS forces after that took over after the Assad forces abandoned Korea. So basically, the situation here is mostly likely to be HTS forces holding the position around here. But the problem is they may not also be HTS forces. Because the sources has become a bit lazy, that they clump up everything into just opposition forces. So my assumption that these are HTS forces. So but the ISIS forces are nearby. So that's one important thing to note. The Americans, sorry, not Americans. The Americans did some airstrikes in this region. Mainly is against the ISIS forces. Some airstrikes in these two locations. ISIS forces have actually expanded control. They managed to capture 2 of the oil fields. So these 2 oil fields has been captured by the ISIS forces, including the attack here that was maybe less successful, and the Americans starting to airstrike these ISIS forces for taking these oil regions. But this is a massive desert. I think this war, this fight and struggle against ISIS to capture the oil facilities, I think this will go on for a while. And the SDF forces also secured the border crossing to Iraq. SDF forces basically crossed the river and gone to the crossing, the border crossing, and captured this, including huge chunk of the desert. Of course, the huge chunk of desert is definitely, is just, indicative. It's not reality. Just like, the captured positions by the ISIS forces, this is just an estimate. Definitely not reality. So definitely there's still way more fight to go. HTS forces actually also appeared around at El Sukna, I believe that they actually went from these areas down south, down this road, and basically hold a position around there, going around the ISIS forces. And whereas Palmyra was actually taken by the Free Syrian Army, basically coming from the south, capturing this position. So Palmyra is taken, and whether the HTS will be able to take it back is remains to be seen, because I'm not even sure if this Free Syrian Army is going to play ball with the HTS. Yeah, because they're like very trained, very aligned with the Americans. So let's see how these continue to play out. In fact, I should actually draw this in. So I should like draw this like this. I think this will make sense. Yeah, something like this. So that's the American situation around here. So I think the Americans and the Kurds is going to deal with the ISIS, but the Kurds are going to have problems because SNA is invading. Americans can't exactly 100% interfere with this as well. So complicated shit happening all this here. Of course, there is still Turkish airstrike on SDF positions at Assa, Ain Assa. So that happened. What else did I miss? I think I might have covered everything. So this is the general situation in Syria. This is definitely not over yet. Despite it seems like Assad is gone, Syrian government fallen, the country basically as we know it is no more. This is not over. The war is not over. The factions are too divided. They're too different and are supported by various powers. The Russians are now talking to the opposition forces and try to probably get a proper way to exit without dying. And there is also rumors about them taking refuge into the SDF areas. So not sure what is the current situation right now, but the areas, this region is definitely still in flux. So anyway, that's all. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe. Hopefully this makes you understand the general picture better rather than seeing one big patch of green signifying that everything has fallen to the rebels. It's not true. They don't have full control of the country, and I don't think they have presence in every single town and cities yet. And so that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.